Welcome to Aware. We are dedicated to communicating information that inspires your positive growth and change. What would you like to create in your life? Are you interested in having incredible health, or learning to trust your intuition, or finding a purpose in your life? These are things everyone would want. And Aware is committed to bringing you this information to assist you in creating a life you love. We invite you to share in this experience and become more aware.
Good afternoon and welcome to Aware. Hi, I'm Lisa Garr, and I am very, very excited because today, I'm always excited pretty much, huh? Today, back by popular demand, is one of our really most wonderful guests. Dr. Richard Schulze is joining us today. For those of you who haven't had the privilege of hearing Dr. Schulze, he is an evangelical natural healing crusader. He is just not your average everyday natural healing crusader. Not that there are many, but he has spent over 20 years operating his own clinic, helping people recover from so-called incurable diseases. He is one of the world's leading and most respected authorities on natural health. I'm very honored to have back on the show Dr. Richard Schulze. Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
What an introduction. Thank you.
Oh, I could go on and on and on.
I know, it's a mutual admiration society here.
That is wonderful. You know, I'll tell you a story. I've attended a number of your natural healing crusades, mostly because it's so great to hear the information over and over again, because I really don't believe you can hear this type of information enough.
I agree. It's something that we have to have almost reinforced daily.
True, because we're being unreinforced daily.
That's right. Everything in the newspapers, movies, everything is promoting us to not take responsibility for ourselves, not heal ourselves, and lie back and let the doctors do their work.
Especially what we're going to be talking about today, having to do with the colon.
Yes.
Which was kind of the point. On one of the days that you talk about the colon from the 5-day lecture, there were cameramen in the room at the time. They were filming the event and so forth, and they started off this day, on the day of the colon lectures, cringing. Just oh God, wondering what was going to be going on. But by the end of the talk, these guys were so completely interested in what was being said, it changed their lives. I was talking to one of the guys, he's like, I didn't know that, and I ate that, and I got to do this cleanse.
Well, it's something that we're not taught. It's such a normal part of our body that at least, hopefully happens daily and frequently, but it's something that we're not taught anything about. In school, nobody talks about it. Our parents didn't talk about it. And here we're left, in middle age, and we don't know about some of the simplest, most natural aspects of our body and how it works.
Simple is true. It does not have to be complicated.
No.
And this is, what is the rate of Americans who have colon cancer per year? I mean,
well,
this is a problem.
What's amazing about it is we don't hear about it, but last year we had 39,000 die of prostate cancer. And as a man, that's all you hear about is the prostate. It's the big men's fear. My prostate's going to grow. We're going to have cancer. 40,000 women died of breast cancer. And that's the big fear for women. Everything from mammograms, should I, shouldn't I, all the way to that's the big scary cancer. But in reality, 60,000 people died of colon rectal cancer with 125,000 new cases diagnosed. And to put that in perspective, only 15,000 people died last year of AIDS. So we're talking about a disease that not only kills more than prostate cancer every year, more than breast cancer every year, but that actually kills 400% more people than die from AIDS. But the press goes to AIDS. The press goes to the prostate, and the press goes to the breast because, hey, sex sells in America. And what's always newsworthy or gets our excitement or that news programs think is the subject that we want to hear about, it's not in direct proportion to reality. Certainly we know that by listening to 15 minutes of the 6 o'clock news, because certainly that many horrible things couldn't have happened in our life that day. Mm-hmm. It has to be the worst of the world in 15 minutes. And it's the same with reporting on diseases. Diseases are reported on that we're afraid of. Ones that we don't talk about, especially the colon and the rectum, you rarely hear about that. But imagine, we're talking about something that every time you hear something about AIDS, you should hear 4 stories about colon cancer and the colon. And it's just in the last few years starting to get some press.
Interesting. So, no, do you believe that really most disease starts in the bowel?
Well, I didn't at first. I used to think that a lot of my teachers, when I started studying, had some kind of bowel fetish. It was a place that they were stuck. And I thought, what's the big deal? And they always taught me really well. They said, look, if you're going to treat someone with natural healing, you have to set up a healthy environment first. You have to get them eating right. You have to get their bodily functions working. And then when you're done with that, you can get onto their specific diseases. But being a headstrong, passionate person like I am, I really wanted to design, smart bomb herbal tonics made from herbs from the rainforest in the Tibet where you could hardly get to that would kill specific diseases. I was kind of like a natural MD. And I thought that was the way to go. And, okay, eat right, have your bowels work, but let's get beyond that. But my great teachers, Dr. Jensen, who passed away recently, Dr. John Christopher, America's great herbalist, Pavarola, and then people that I studied their work, like Dr. Stone and many others, all talked about cleansing the bowel. So I knew to be a good natural healer, I had to do that. What was the shock for me mostly in the clinic was my patients had the nerve of the gall to get well before I was ready to do my specific treatment. Because a patient would come to me with, you name it, patients walk in the door with any wide variety of problems. And first I would get their food program in line as fast as I could. Then I would get them on some bowel cleansing. And then when 2-3 weeks had gone by, I was about ready for their 4th visit. And before I was ready to start working on their specific program and their specific problem, it was gone. And I would say on the average, it fluctuated, but it was between 80 and 90% of my patients' aches, pains, problems, complaints were gone. The symptoms were gone, and as far as they were aware, their problem had disappeared just by getting their food program corrected and by getting the waste eliminated out of their body on a regular basis, getting their bowel working. I learned that it was a much more powerful treatment. Maybe it wasn't sexy. Maybe it wasn't as exciting as, smart bomb herbs from, exotic places against rare killer diseases, but it worked. And the bottom line in the clinic is you're looking for what's effective. My patients aren't well, and I want to teach them how to heal themselves.
Now, can you kind of give us a brief explanation of how this works, how the digestive tract functions? Because it will help us to learn about how the food really does get lodged into the walls of the intestine and how it starts.
Sometimes I use examples that are crude but that everybody can understand. And
that's what you're famous for. Go for it.
I used to have this imaginary vision that most people have of our anatomy inside our body and what it's like. A heart over here, a lungs on the sides, kidneys down there, bowel way down there. But the reality is very few people know what the anatomy is like in their body, because my patients used to come in and say, I have a stomach ache, and they'd be holding their hand 12 inches lower than their stomach, right on their colon. And my first autopsy that I was in on was very enlightening. And how I relate to it is, when I was a kid, I had a 1950 Ford. Basically, me and my brother used to pop the hood. It never ran. And there was a little engine inside a big hood. And we could actually get inside the hood, dangle our feet in there, and work on the car. Nowadays, and that's what I thought the anatomy of our digestive tract and basically our internal organs was like. A lot of space. Then if you take my new car, my 2001 Ford Expedition, and you open it up, you couldn't even put a marble under the hood. Every space has been engineered. Everything is touching everything. There's no room to work. I feel sorry for anybody that has to work on their car nowadays. It's a complexity of parts that are all touching each other. Well, when I first saw the abdominal cavity opened up, I was shocked because I realized I thought the colon was just kind of sitting there on its own. I didn't realize that it was literally physically attached by tissue to the ovaries, to the uterus, surrounding the uterus, to the prostate. that it actually comes within, an inch of the heart, touching the liver, touching the spleen, touching the kidneys. It is the biggest organ in the middle of our body, touching our spinal cord, touching our spinal nerves. And then it all came clear. First of all, there's no space inside your abdomen. So if anything expands, something else has to be crushed, literally crushed. So the fact that we now know medically that people are storing 5 to 10 pounds of fecal matter in their colon, the colon just normally expands. In fact, medical statistics, and I'll get into that in a minute, tell us that everybody in America has that. So if your colon is expanded, the question is, what's been crushed? And with all of us, it's something different. It may be your lungs, pressure on your lungs. You think you have asthma. Really, you have constipation. It could be your heart. You're having palpitations, irregular heartbeat. You think it's your heart. Could be your colon. You're a woman, and every month your period is agony. Yeah, you're just in pain. You're debilitated. You go down. You think there's something wrong with your uterus. You don't realize that your uterus has been crushed to half its size because your colon is swollen.
It sits on top of the ovaries.
It wraps right around it. The ovaries are attached. So the reality is there's very few organs, major organs in your body that aren't attached to or within an inch of your colon. Then you also have this colon that is impacted with fecal matter that is actually literally slow leaking toxic waste back into your bloodstream, and that's why it can be affecting your feet, your brain, the way you think. I mean, there's the old, the old story, you can't have sweet thoughts on a sour stomach, I found to be absolutely true in the clinic, because when your colon isn't working and it's backed up and you're literally carrying around a sack of pounds of waste, you're not thinking very clearly. You're not real happy about life. And this is how I had patients that were literally, supposedly medically incurable manic depressives or depressives or had clinical depression. I never got to them with any herbs, even like ginkgo or cayenne, to get their brain circulation going. Just after the bowel cleanse, their depression was gone. So what I saw in the clinic, if you were to pick one organ or system within the body that could be creating the most problems and affect adversely the most organs and systems of your body, it was without a doubt the colon.
And how long would you think it takes, on average, for the average American meal to digest? And I'm not talking about just hamburgers or whatever. I'm talking about maybe a turkey sandwich. Say people think that's healthy. Go for it.
Well, I was laughing about that last night because I was out to dinner with a great friend of mine, Dr. McGregor, and we decided to have a long, leisurely dinner, and we only made it halfway through before our bowel needed to work. Because, we were like, God, our health is interrupting our fun time here at dinner. But the reality is there's a big wave that happens from your mouth to your anus is literally a long tube. And when you eat food, it starts a muscular wave that actually, when you're chewing, moves that food, the contractions, right in your esophagus down into your stomach. And then in your stomach, there's contractions that actually move it down into your duodenum, or the beginning of your small intestine, for assimilation. And then those contractions create the wave that goes to your colon that is actually now removing the previous meal about 20 minutes into eating a normal meal. So really, your colon is something that needs to work, I say at least once a day, if not 2 or 3 times a day. And I never quite understood that. And I literally traveled the world searching for the perfect bowel movement. and not a lot of people can say that. But I did go to areas of Central America, in the rainforest, in the jungle, into Asia, into China, into India. And I wanted to see primitive people who are living simple, basically stress-free lives, eating natural food that grew right in around their area, what their bowels worked like. And what I saw was their bowels were working about 20 minutes on average after a meal that they ate, and 2 to 3 times a day, which we're talking about 20 times a week, 21 times a week. Now, the average American is going anywhere from 2 to 5 times a week, which I I love calculators, which I calculated out to be, by the time we die, we're 70,000 bowel movements short of normal, the average American. And we wonder why our body, everything from our teeth to our brain cells that cause Alzheimer's disease, are plaquing up. I mean, one thing else I saw in autopsy was the amount of gunk, literally gunk and sludge inside the human body. Plaque building up on nerve cells is now in the brain, is now what they're saying is the cause of Alzheimer's disease. Plaque building up on your teeth causes tooth decay. And basically, when you see an organ of the body that's not working well, you can break it down to a very simple level. Is the nutrition getting in through the blood? And then as that organ works, it metabolizes waste, and is the waste getting out? And really, we're talking about that for the whole body right now, but it's the same story for every organ and every cell within the human body. Nutrition has to be getting in, and waste has to be getting out. And what I saw upon examining in autopsies and looking at cadavers was the waste, the horrifying waste that is inside, that's backed up in the human body. And we spend our whole life looking at our skin, trying to figure out how to make it look better with makeup and fixing our hair and dressing in the right clothes. If people could only look for 5 seconds inside their body, they'd be doing more internal makeovers than they would be doing external makeovers.
Which would be the same thing, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Because, the best way to get a good-looking skin and good-looking complexion is through a clean body. And my clinic was in Hollywood and Malibu, and I was literally the natural healer and herbalist to the stars. And I had more actresses and models in my clinic than anyone else, and they all had the cleanest, best-looking skin. And they got to throw out the 350 bottles that were sitting on their sink and go back to a good food program, a good clean bowel, and if we really got out there, a skin brush.
Right.
And that created the best-looking skin.
Now, you've heard stories about the colon cleanses where you find things, jelly beans you ate when you were in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Now, does this happen? Do these items that you ate, 10 years ago stay lodged in the colon? Is that possible?
Yes. It's actually a medical fact more than a natural healing fact. Just to back up a step, the statistics, when I first looked at the medical books, and I have a lot of old ones, the Merck Manual is the American standard, if not the universal standard, international standard of diagnosis of disease. It's produced by Merck Sharp and Dohme, one of the largest drug companies in America, and it's a standard medical text of disease used around the world. Every doctor has one. And their statistics say that in 1950, 10% of American adults had diverticulosis, or herniated sacs in their colon, caused by the pressure and stuffing of constipation, where fecal matter literally pushes into a weak part or a balloon in the wall of the muscle of the bowel and stays there. But in 1955, they upped that to 15%. In the 1972 edition, they went up to 30%. In the 1987 edition, they said just about half of Americans have diverticulosis or herniated sacs on their colon. And in the most recent edition of the Merck Manual, it says if people live long enough, every American has herniated, what we might call bowel pockets, or diverticuli, which are just like a weak spot on a balloon or a rubber tire where it bulges. It actually looks a bit like a mushroom, and it gets filled with fecal matter. And, basic common sense will tell you it just stays in there. And, in fact, the whole colon can get encased in fecal matter in advanced constipation to where it looks like a rusty pipe, an old steel or galvanized pipe from your house. And when you look through it, you can only see a small hole because there's so much rust in it.
Is that how it gets in there in the first place, is the constipation?
Yeah. Basically, as Americans, we're not big on fiber. I mean, we love, meat, dairy, chicken, fish, eggs, cheese. And the first thing people have to realize is animal equals zero fiber. Anything that came from an animal has no fiber, which means it sits in your bowel, and it really won't go anywhere until you consume something that has fiber, which pushes it out. So the good old American food program of, bacon and eggs is literally stuck down there. In fact, I had patients that during a bowel cleanse would eliminate, after maybe 3 or 4 bowel cleanses, the entire casing of the inside of their bowel. I'm talking 5 feet long here, and eliminate it in one bowel movement, be a bit frightened because they thought they were losing their colon, not just eliminating the old toxic liner, and you could even see the sacs on it that would come out at the same time. But during, normal bowel cleansing, those diverticuli don't get emptied. It takes, a little bit of advanced bowel cleansing to get rid of them.
If you're at that stage.
That's right.
You stated on the front of your newsletter something very graphic statement, that the intestinal tube from your mouth to your anus basically is as long as 2 cars parked end to end.
Yeah.
And knowing what goes on in that last 5 feet of it can basically change the state of your entire health.
Yeah, it is amazing.
It's a huge part of us.
It really is. It's a gigantic. It's the longest connected part of our body, and I try to explain things graphically because often medically things are explained in millimeters or centimeters, and there's always been this error with medicine. They're patients. They're not going to understand. I'm a doctor. I've trained for 8 years. Just tell them to do this because they won't get it. And I have a problem with that because I find people a heck of a lot smarter. I find people ready to understand anatomy and physiology if the doctors will just take the Greek and the Latin and the $20 words out of it. The average person is interested in the inside of their body and actually in looking at it a lot simpler and more natural than medicine explains it. If I can segue for just a second, one thing I always like to clear up with people is tell them, hey, look, some people have, through an interview like this, they'll be looking at it, viewing it through the eyes of what they know about medicine. And I like to tell them, natural healing and medicine are 2 very, very different systems of health and healing. Medicine is all about finding a disease, cutting it out, or taking some pills or medicine to kill it or cure it or try to make an organ work even though it's still diseased, like taking insulin if you have diabetes. No healing of the pancreas there. We're just crutching the body and maybe get a few more years out of you. Natural healing is very different. Natural healing is knowing that the functions of the human body are beyond scientific scrutiny, examination, even our comprehension. It's like outer space. It's endless. And so the best thing we can do is set up a good healing environment, a healthy environment, and let the body heal itself. The first thing you learn in immunology class and in Medicine 101 is that the body is always trying to heal itself. So we know that, so we set up a great environment, a good food program, a good attitude program, and everything in between. Then, if we aren't well, and I found that 80 to 90% of my patients were well just from their food program and attitude program and a little bowel cleansing, we can go deeper into cleansing and detoxification, still letting the body rule and decide what to do, because the body is the supreme intelligence. It knows exactly what it needs to do to fix you. It just needs an opportunity to do so. And then only as a last resort, we go to the first place medicine goes, which is looking at the disease itself and looking at a way that we can even increase the health of the human body, but maybe stimulate a little circulation in that specific organ, get more blood flow, get more elimination, but still letting the body do the healing. And so I just wanted to say that, Lisa, so people understand really what we're talking about when we're talking about natural healing and the bowel is setting up an environment where the body heals itself. So what we have is really permanent healing. This is not something where you have a disease, you treat it with a pill, but then it comes back in 5 years and it's much worse.
It's about preventative medicine, which is what you're talking about.
So I had to get the advertisement in for natural healing because I found that most of my patients, it took them quite a while to get that. Because as you said in the beginning of the show, we are so indoctrinated with, look, you wouldn't understand if I explained it to you, and, just relax, take a breath, and lie down, and we'll make it all better.
Yeah, it's about the education. And that's also what you're committed to and what we're committed to, because without these types of shows or this type of information coming out of you, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I love the name of your show, The Aware Show. I mean, people, when they turn on the dial and listen to your show, should take a couple deep breaths and realize that some of their old ways of thinking could be challenged. And this is all part of natural healing too, is taking healing yourself and making it possible for everybody. Often people would come to me and say, but look, I wasn't great in school, I can't speak Latin, I really could never understand chemistry, biochemistry, anatomy, and physiology. And I go, can you grow a sunflower? Because all you got to do, everybody goes, well, gosh, no one would say, well, I don't know what photosynthesis is. I'm not really sure what chlorophyll is and how it works. I don't understand the oxygen, carbon dioxide exchange and the oil cells on the leaf of a plant. You dig a hole, you put in a seed, you water it, you grow a 12-foot sunflower. Healing yourself is the same way. Any knowledge of anatomy and physiology and chemistry is not necessary. Common sense is all that you need, and all you have to do is set up a wonderful, healthy lifestyle, and your body grows the sunflower. It does all the work. You heal yourself. And often people just can't believe it's so easy, but I can guarantee you, in my clinic, I saw every disease from Alzheimer's to cancer to neurological disorders, and in the last 10 years, I love to specialize in people that were already told they were supposed to be dead. Because
Yes.
let's see the power of natural healing. I love juice, but can I kill someone with it? Let's see if I can kill someone with sprouts and juice. I want to see how far we can take this. And all I found is that people got well. And what I realized after the last decade in the clinic was that most of the people that don't get well on natural healing are because they don't do enough. Nobody's dying from doing too much.
Actually, that's one of the things that I admire about your approach is it is kind of a militant approach, but that's what you need to do.
That's right. We're natural healing Gestapo revolutionaries.
But if you're really serious and if you're very, very sick and if your life is being threatened, you, as you say in your newsletters, cannot going back to doing what got you sick in the first place.
Well, my patients didn't want to go to the hospital. They were done with doctors. They watched their relatives die or get carved up, and maybe it happened to them. And they didn't want to go to a doctor. And so they were willing to take it a step further, like many people are today. And so, I just thought, well, come on. In the 60s, I tried to kill myself partying, and I never succeeded. This physical body that we're carrying around is pretty tough. And I always laugh because I say, when people opened up their seventh beer, they never decided to call 1-800-beer maker and see if, because they're packed in 6-packs, 7 is an overdose. Or they never did that with a package of chocolate chip cookies. So why is it when they're healing themselves naturally, they're backed off and wondering if they're overdosing on peppermint tea? And I can assure anybody that's listening, they can turn up the volume 10 times, and all they're going to experience is a greater state of well-being. And their diseases and their problems are going to go away. They're not going to overdo it. And if you are one of the rare individuals that does, the big downside, you might vomit. That's the big downside. They're seriously overdosing in natural healing, is it might come up as fast as you put it down. That tea, that juice, whatever.
One end or the other.
That's right. That's the big downside. So considering that, just do it.
With that said,
I'll take Nike's slogan.
You got it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, I'm speaking with Dr. Richard Schulze, natural healing evangelical crusader, as we know him to be. And we will be right back. You are listening to Aware on KPFK.
and then when it's rumbling in their stomach, they think there's something wrong with their stomach. They don't examine the fact that maybe there was something wrong with their food. You can see that in the classic television advertising for digestive aids that were prescription drugs 5 years ago and now are over the counter. Very strong pills to stop your production of hydrochloric acid. And it'll show up a man, he'll say, I love to go to Mama's house, but after I'm there, I can't breathe because I have such bad indigestion. We'll take this pill. Well, how about telling Mama that you can't breathe after you eat her food? And maybe the both of you have to get healthy. The reality is so many of the classic American meals are bad food combinations. And to take the mystery out of that, all it means is digestive time. Some foods like fruit or fruit juice, you put in your stomach, and they only need to spend 5 or 10 minutes there. Other foods like grains need to spend 5 hours there. And all the other foods are probably in between that. Well, it only makes sense then that if you eat fruit and you eat grains, something that wants to digest in 5 minutes and something that takes 5 hours in your stomach, there's going to be a bit of a problem. And either the undigested food's going to leave too soon and cause fermentation, or the fruit's going to stay in there for 5 hours, which is about 4 hours and 55 minutes longer than it wants to, and it's going to cause fermentation and indigestion there. So it makes time to balance the types of foods you're eating in a meal with the length of time it takes to digest them. And if there was one simple rule, it's usually those two ends of the spectrum. Don't mix the fastest digestive foods like fruits with the longest digesting foods like grains. And that's almost guaranteed indigestion. So now we're talking about the classic Americans, everything from your breakfast toast and jam to your dinner dessert apple pie is a mixture of fruit and grains. So what do we have here? The average American doesn't know they're having indigestion. They just think they're normal. In fact, the average American, what they have been putting up with, what they think is okay health, if someone that was healthy were to experience that for a half hour, it might kill us. Because it really is bloating and pain and burping and backfiring and digestive difficulty, along with all the other aches and pains that we put up with, which we say, well, it's normal, at this age, at 35 or 40, it's normal. This is what normally happens. And what it really is it's what normally happens in sick people. It's not normally what happens in someone that's healthier. In fact, usually all you have to do is go to a more rural part of the world, whether it's a rural part of Russia or China or Central America, and what you'll find is that you'll run into people your age. You'll think they're your children because their skin looks so good.
Right.
They're not losing their eyesight at 40. They don't have what we consider to be the common effects of aging.
Because we think that these common everyday ailments are normal, and over time,
that's right,
they just take a toll on our bodies.
One thing I wanted to mention to you was about, I always say to people, never underestimate the power of colon cleansing. And people are amazed by, well, how can cleaning the bowel affect something that is so far away? Now, I've talked about the organs that lie so closely, so that's understandable. And I talked that the bowel can leak, which poisons the whole body. But I was famous in my clinic for helping people get over long-term chronic problems that nobody else could figure out. I was considered the natural healing detective, and probably one of the best in the world. And the reason is because I started with the basics. I started at the beginning. I have to tell you this one story. This one lady came to see me. She had severe migraines. She had gone to her medical doctor. He prescribed painkillers. It worked for a while. She went back when it didn't. He then prescribed narcotics. She didn't like being drowsy or drunk, so she went on to another doctor who prescribed sedatives. It worked for a while. Headaches came back. She then went to a chiropractor. He said she had subluxated cervical vertebrae. Many people do. He adjusted her. Headaches went away, came back. She then went to an acupuncturist who did some acupuncture. Headaches went away, put a lot of needles in her neck and other places, but they came back. She went to an herbalist that I know who prescribed a great pain medication that took her migraines completely away, but then they came back. And when she came to see me, I asked her my first 5 interview questions, and one of them was, how often do you have a bowel movement? She told me once every 7 to 10 days. She asked for my migraine medicine. I gave her my intestinal formula. in 3 days, her bowel was cleansed, and she's never had migraines since, and that was 15 years ago. The point is the bowel is often the cause of toxins and tension and stress within the body that can aggravate a weakness that we might have. Maybe she was genetically predisposed to migraines. We're all genetically predisposed to something, but it's like when you add a 40-pound pack on your back, you might notice that you have a weak knee, but you didn't notice it before you put the 40-pound pack on. Many of my patients would come in with seemingly unrelated problems. I had a lady that couldn't work for 3 years on her back with inflamed discs and nerves in her back. She had been to every back specialist, every chiropractor, every deep body worker, and she was in trouble. 3-4 days into bowel cleansing, she never had the pain again. Imagine this colon swelling and like a palm putting direct pressure on the spinal nerves. That's what happens. So it just makes sense to me, and I saw it for decades in my clinic. Start with the most obvious.
So let's talk about how to do that.
Yes.
Yes, let's talk about cleansing the colon. I just caught this funny sentence in here. It says, if you need a library in your bathroom, you know you're constipated.
Well, you know, a normal, healthy, working bowel is quite a fast-working bowel. And silly me, occasionally I'll be heated in the middle of an article in a magazine, and I'll take it in the bathroom with me thinking that I might have 30 seconds to read on, and it doesn't happen. When your bowel is functioning normally, and we did talk about how often, 2 to 3 times a day, or at least once for each major meal you eat, to reflect as you're starting the meal, the previous meal is leaving. But the consistency should also be very soft. It should be less formed than formed, more like, soft peanut butter. The shape, it shouldn't be well formed. It shouldn't be black granite balls bouncing off the bottom of the porcelain. And the color should be more light in color, less formed, light in color, if your bowel's working normally. Unfortunately, I would say about 97% of my patients did not have normal, frequent, soft, easy, quick bowel movements. They had the squeezing, the grunting, the meditation, the library in the bathroom, and it was a problem their whole life.
So we're going for peanut butter here.
Pardon me?
Oh, we're going for peanut butter here.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
And so one thing I started doing in getting myself well is using a lot of bowel cleansing agents on the market. And the first thing that I find, and many people find, is they don't work. I found that generally as patients came into me, I'd say, well, we're going to do some herbal therapy. And they go, I've tried herbs, they don't work. And I used to get irritated by that. And then I went out and tried the majority of herbs, and I thought, they don't work. And it's not that the herbs don't work. It's just that, and I'm not blaming the herbal manufacturers. They've just been beat up by the government for the last 50 years in America. And so the idea was, well, don't make something that can cause any negative effects in anybody. Well, what that means is creating a product that won't cause any effect at all. Mm-hmm. And so in the clinic, I dealt with people differently, and I thought, well, we need something strong. And for some of my patients, I actually had to get out the old, 17th and 18th century veterinary books and come up with laxatives that were used for 2,000-pound animals like horses. That's the degree of constipation that we have in America today. I mean, I had patients that went once a month, and that wasn't unheard of. A lot of models, a lot of actresses. And I had patients that went once every other month. I had a 38-year-old woman that went 6 times a year. Then I had a record breaker, a young lady from Northern California, who went only 3 times during her pregnancy, and then 2 times outside that, so we're talking 5 times a year. And my record breaker was 2 bowel movements a year.
Oh, Lord.
And I get a letter every day, Lisa, from a person. I say a lady because women tend to be more flexible and more adventurous into natural healing than men. Our testosterone makes us tough and keeps us a little, stiff around the edges sometimes. And so most of my patients were women, but I get a letter every day from a woman that says to me, I thank you so much for talking about it, because until I heard you say it out loud, I thought I was a freak. And so many people think that they're a freak. Well, I want anybody who's listening to this to realize they're normal. If their bowel is working in a very dysfunctional way, it's normal. It's the way most Americans are. So basically, I concocted an emergency full-strength formula that I originally called, my brother named it depth charges, because I gave it to him years ago, and he said his bowel's still working great, and he only had to take it once.
Right. So these aren't the types of things that you can become dependent on, like laxatives and so forth.
No, because what we're talking about is, that dependency issue is important because a lot of people bring it up. And what I say is, if you're using herbs to cleanse your bowel, and you also create a healthy lifestyle, your bowel will work on its own, and after a period of time, and it can be anywhere from 2 days to 10 years, depending on the degree of constipation, your bowel will learn to work on its own. If you just take an herbal bowel cleanser, it won't. It might, and you might have to take it forever. But when you weigh out the advantages and disadvantages, there's no real disadvantages for taking a long-time herbal bowel cleanser over a long time. There's a lot of disadvantages to being constipated, from disease to cancer. So I don't see being constipated as an option.
Now, you're talking about oral herbal cleansers. You're not talking about doing a colonoscopy. Colonic.
Yeah, oral herbal cleansers. Again, if a person does nothing physically, emotionally, and spiritually, continues their same bad eating habits and hating themselves and everything in between, and just takes an herbal laxative, they can get lucky. And a lot of people, their bowel starts working better, and then they don't have to take it. But some people have to continue because they really haven't fully corrected the cause. Herbal bowel cleansers are powerful, but, come on, against, 4 pounds of cheese a day, it can just kind of neutralize you. So that's why I would make my patients understand that they have to do some work here, too. If they want a pill to cure themselves, that's the lie that medical doctors promote. That's not what natural healing is all about.
Now, how can an herb actually stimulate a sluggish bowel that's been a chronic problem?
It's great. I'm always amazed by how many people say, I don't get it. How do herbs work? And I think, I don't get it. How do they not? I mean, we don't question food. All food and herbs and plants and trees and barks and berries and resins and strawberries and blueberries and anything that grows on this planet contains chemicals. Some of these chemicals are nutritional, like vitamins and minerals and enzymes. Other of these chemicals are stronger chemicals, essential oils, maybe alkaloids, and they're very medicinal. That herb or food or plant you would only want to consume for short periods of time because it is correcting something. And, of course, all the original classic prescription drugs in America were made isolated from chemicals found in plants like digitalis and, over 50% of the drugs used today were originally chemicals found in herbs. So herbs simply work off chemicals. Well, one group of chemicals called anthraquinones, this is the big word, and there's a particular anthraquinone called amodin, is in certain herbs like not aloe vera, but the aloes that grow equatorially around the world, like Aloe sparax and spicata, also in cenopods and leaves, which are famous, grown since recorded history for laxatives in the Nile Delta. Alexandria is a big senna-growing area. Cascara sagrada, which is our California plant. These all contain the anthraquinone amodin. And amodin, when it gets inside your bowel and touches your colon wall, actually makes the muscle move. It stimulates that muscle to move. Kind of like going to the gym and doing an isolated bicep curl. You're strengthening that muscle by stimulating it to move.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and it stimulates it to move so much that actually in one naturopathic school, we took a bowel out of a dead person, because in natural medicine, we only remove organs from dead people.
This is good.
And when we smeared the different amodin herbs on it, the bowel actually contracted. So hence comes my statement that I've been accused of making a few times, that I can even get a dead person to have a bowel movement, because I say, I don't care if your Uncle Harry's dead. I can get him to have a bowel movement, and let's see what happens. And it comes from the fact that I don't need any participation from the patient. These herbs are powerful enough to make the bowel contract and work. It starts that muscular peristalsis that I talked about that really has to go from our mouth to our anus, but it specifically does it only in the colon. And so what it's going to do is it's going to make your bowel work tomorrow. And I don't care what you're eating, drinking, or thinking. We'll get right, but that might take a month or two. Right now, tomorrow, I need your bowel to work. Okay? So I developed what I call intestinal formula number 1 in the clinic to guarantee me that I could get patients' bowels to work regardless of if they had corrected anything yet. Because I had to get the elimination channels, the channels of waste removal working in the body. There's no way I can get someone well if they're poisoned. You know, they're toxic. And so I used to flood them with nutrition, get the juicer going, herbal nutrition, superfood, whatever. And then I used to also get the waste out of their body. That was my first step. And I can do that without their participation while I'm teaching them how to make better choices in the health food store, while I'm teaching them about our Wednesday Santa Monica organic market or the organic markets that are now up and running all over Southern California. And while I taught them, I didn't have to wait 2 or 3 months because they might not make it, literally, to get their bowel working. I wanted it working tomorrow.
You mentioned some foods that also stimulate the bowel movements, which are apples, bananas, figs.
You know, people always forget, like, just simple things our grandparents knew. I mean, often with patients, I would just get them to soak some prunes or you know, hey, when my plum trees ripen here in my orchard, I don't get one a day. I get 4,000 in an hour, and then the trees bear 3 days later. So often what fruit is telling you is, you know, gorge on it. Have massive amounts for a short period of time. Do a plum cleanse. Well, prunes, you can just soak them in water, put them in a blender, add some apple juice, and for some people, that's enough. I found that for my patients, most of them needed something to jump-start the engine, something to get that bowel working effectively. Can I give a free gift?
Oh, yes.
I just wanted to say that, you know, I'm committed to certain things in my life and who I am and what I do. And what I decided was I want to give free samples of this bowel cleanser. It's really my plot to heal the world, to create universal love. You know, and I thought, well, you know, I would like to, you know, anybody that calls us, I'll give them a free sample bottle of intestinal formula number 1. You know,
You're going to get flooded with phone calls.
Well, you know, I can talk on it forever, but the reality is what happens when you swallow the pill.
Don't call here. Call the 800 number there, right?
Yes.
Our phones just lit up. No, rerouting. 800-HERB-DOC, 1-800-HERB-DOC.
And I'll also give them my latest 16-page newsletter on the colon, which we have just touched on, but there's a ton of information, probably more than they want to know, in that newsletter. So I'll give them both of that.
We'll give all that information again at 1-800-HERB-DOC. You know,
I don't know if we have time to let me give people like 6 natural ways they can get their bowel working.
That's great. That would be great. And also we have a couple of callers talking about irritable bowel syndrome.
Okay.
So we want to touch on that, but let's talk about 6 natural ways you can get your colon working right now.
You know, I'll make it quick. First one, drink more liquid. The bowel cannot even work properly without a minimum of 2 quarts or 64 ounces of liquid in a day. The fastest way to get your bowel to stop working is dehydrate. Your bowel needs water in order to process the fecal matter and get it out of your body. Hard fecal matter doesn't get removed. Second one, you got to eat more fiber. Fiber makes your bowel work. Sludge doesn't. Animal foods are sludge. Refined flour products are sludge. We got to eat more fruits, vegetables, grains, sprouts. Adding more fiber in and just drinking more liquid can make your bowel work tremendously better.
And you're saying if it's raw, it's even better.
Yeah, absolutely. When we break it down the least or alter it the least from nature, it's even more powerful. Then adding in some natural laxative foods, like I mentioned, fruits. Fruits are great. You know, it's just the basics, apples, figs, dates, bananas, just about any fruit. It contains liquid. Stay away from the dehydrated fruits if you're constipated because they suck moisture out of your body, and we're trying to add more in.
Okay.
The fourth way, move your body. Moving your body, just walking, creates peristalsis. Sexual intercourse creates peristalsis.
This is good.
Yeah.
Number 5, sex. Okay.
Right. Positive emotions. You got to think right. If you hate yourself, if you're filled with fear, that's a good way to shut your bowel down totally. Okay, shuts it right off. And the last one is get into the herbs. Start using herbs. Herbs are foods, too, and start using some herbs to get your bowel stimulated. And what I didn't get into, but they can read on it, is part 2 is drawing that old waste out. That's the second part of getting healthy. First, we got to get the bowel working regularly. Then we got to go in and do our homework and get the old waste out of it.
Okay. Thank you, and I want to go to Joyce real quick because we have like a board full of calls here. Can we get to a few of them, Doctor?
Let's go.
Okay, Dr. Schulze. Joyce from Los Angeles, you have a question for Dr. Schulze.
Yes, I do. Was told I have irritable bowel syndrome, and I've learned how to manage it. But prior to me having that, I had reflux and what they called a hiatal hernia.
Yeah.
Then I had surgery, which developed an umbilical hernia, which now I'm in the process of going to get repaired soon.
So you experienced reflux, you experienced the symptoms of a hiatal hernia, food backing up, maybe especially late at night, and then you developed irritable bowel syndrome. And how did you experience that?
Oh, I didn't know what it was at first, but my stomach was cramping and tons of pain.
Cramping, pain. Okay, the two, initial things that I can tell you is, when your digestive system is revolting against you, it means it doesn't like the food that you're putting in your mouth. And I don't care if that's food that the person sitting next to you thinks is healthy and has healed themselves on. To you, it isn't working. The choices of food, how you chew it and eat it, what you're thinking about while you're digesting your food, and these things that aren't working for you. And
well, I did manage it, but what I was concerned about was the hernia still affecting it, because now I'm eating correctly.
Yes.
And I've gotten rid of my negative thoughts.
Good.
Good for you.
Good for you.
Okay.
Okay, something that's great for irritable bowel. First, let me tell you that you're in a small percentile group. Most people, their colons are dead, sleeping in some type of self-induced coma, and they're not going to work without, a powerful jump start. On the other hand, often you have colons that are irritated, maybe hot, maybe people with diarrhea. Were you experiencing loose stools or anything like that?
I was having normal ones.
Yeah, okay, normal ones. One thing that can help your bowel, too, are foods that are soothing to the irritation. Irritable bowel syndrome just means your bowel's unhappy, it's irritated, it's hot, it's inflamed. We want to calm it down.
Okay.
A classic food for that is psyllium. Psyllium really helps your bowel calm down. Aloes, aloe vera now, our local California aloes that you can put into blender drinks and drink. Try to find fresh in your garden. That's always best. Flaxseed oil is a classic. And if irritable bowel syndrome or anything that's inflamed or hot bowels like colitis or anything gets bad, you can even use them rectally, flaxseed oil, aloe vera, things of that nature.
Great. Thanks for your call, Joyce.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, I want to go to another call. Jerry in Los Angeles, in Redondo Beach. Sorry about that. Hi, Jerry.
Hi.
You have a question for Dr. Richard Schulze.
Yeah, Dr. Schulze. I try to eat organically. For the most 99.9%, I've been insulin dependent, diabetic for 34 years. I have problems with seizures, hypoglycemic seizures. I have a strict regimen. I have a strict diet. I have to eat 3 times a day, and it's combinations of foods. And I don't know. I monitor my blood between 9 and 15 times a day to keep from having seizures. I get up in the night. And I've never been able to cleanse just because the time periods that I'm allowed, I have to eat at a specific time. Is there any help?
Wonderful question. Dr. Schulze? Oh, Dr. Schulze. That helps. We would need Dr. Schulze. Hang on one second.
Thank you.
Try and catch line 1, Steve, because I think Dr. Schulze might be calling in there. And did he hear your question? He didn't. Okay, he's calling in on one of these lines. We'll start picking up the phone lines and see. That's odd. Anyway.
Well, thank you.
You know what? I think that if you hang on, that he might be able to call back and answer your question, because
I'd really appreciate it.
And I'm going to give out his information one more time before we can get him back on the phone. The phone number to call to get a hold of Dr. Schulze's information, his newsletters. He's been kind enough to offer free newsletters to anybody that calls. All sorts of wonderful free things. And the phone number is 888 HerbDoc, HerbDoc, and also he's giving away free samples of the intestinal formula number 1 for anybody who calls. Dr. Schulze is back on the line with us. Hello, sorry about that.
No problem. It's actually 800 HerbDoc.
Did I say, 800? Did I say 888?
Yeah, that's
sorry.
Okay. We get confused now because we have many toll-free numbers.
800, thank you.
800 HerbDoc, and they call, and they'll have to beg me to stop giving them free gifts.
Okay.
I'm big on that, planting the seeds.
There was a caller, Jerry in Redondo Beach, I think I have you both on the phone, who has been insulin dependent for 34 years, and he can't cleanse because of his eating regime. Can you suggest anything?
Yes, Jerry, take it slow. You can do it. I just got a letter yesterday from just another one of the literally thousands of people that was insulin dependent and got off their insulin and worked their way off it. But this man used a key word. He said, I did it slowly. Do it slowly. Whenever your body is dependent on any type of chemical, especially, one like insulin, take your time. You can do the food program. You can even get the juicer out. Just dilute your juices with distilled water. Remember your common sense, okay? Don't be afraid to adjust the programs based on what you want to do. But I guarantee you, because I've seen it way too many times and experienced it too many times and get the letters, you can work your way down on your insulin. You can work your way off it.
Doctor, I am a juvenile diabetic, though. Since I've been 19, no pancreatic function.
Yes, exactly. And what that means is, you genetically inherited a pancreas that doesn't want to work. So let's see what it's capable of. And what I know is that if you keep making, one foot in front of the other, keep making slow but sure steps in your lifestyle, your body will respond. I know that may be hard for you to see right now, but I've seen people grow back fingers. I've seen people get their fourth sets of teeth come in because their body was healing themselves so well. I've seen people grow back appendixes and tonsils and lymphoid aggregations. I've seen people heal themselves of disease that the doctor said they'd be dead 4 years ago. And, of course, I have seen, most importantly to you, people certainly with juvenile diabetes, with type 1, type 2 diabetes, people get their pancreases working again. So it's not dead and gone. It's still there. It just doesn't know how to work. And the greater you make your lifestyle and your environment, it'll start working on you, and you'll have to monitor your blood sugar and be willing to reduce your dosage.
We have about 30 seconds into final words. Anybody just anything that you have to say for us in terms of our health and our cleansing?
I think I would go back to, Lisa, not underestimating the power of the simple aspects of cleansing. We're Americans. We like to make it complicated. We like to make it detailed. Even food combination, people make it so complex, I don't even feel like eating anymore. I lose my appetite. Healing yourself, whether it's the common cold or advanced leukemia, I don't care what any doctor says, all you have to do is start with the basics. Get a juicer. Get more nutrition in, and get your bowel working, and get your bowel and every cell in your body to eliminate its waste.
Thank you so much. Incredible information.
Love you,
always.
Lisa.
Love you, too.
Thanks for having me.
Always. 1-800-HERB-DOC is the phone number you can get all of Dr. Schulze's information from.